passionate and mercy-filled group of people that care about who you are, what you're doing, and how we might be able to be a part of your lives. And so thank you for trusting us with this hour, and I would pray that we're able to see each other fully as best as we can in the world that we live in. I know that there's a number of announcements to be shared today, and so Clay, I'm going to ask you if you would please come up, and then Linda, you'll be next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our stewardship campaign begins the end of March, so we're only about 8 weeks away. I'm delighted to announce that we have two folks that will head up the campaign, Leslie House and Mary Lou Beavers. Where are you guys? You out there? Thank you so much. Now, they just joined the church 2 years ago, so all the more power to them. This is a really important role. And the principal responsibilities are help to organize the campaign gala dinner on March 29th, mark your calendars, and to select 3 or 4 UU congregants willing to talk about why UU is important to their life. Mary Lou, and Lou, right? That's the nickname, Lou. Would like to form a subcommittee of 3 or 4 people to help out. This dinner is coming up fast. We encourage you, if you're willing to be a volunteer, if you've been on this committee before, if you could see them after the worship service, that would be wonderful. So, on a totally different subject, Lynette and I will be out of the country for 9 or 10 days. We'll be in Egypt. We're pretty excited about that. But we have one more strategic planning session coming up. That's on February 22nd, and it's on values. I know how important values are to yours, and we really encourage you to join us. There's a sign-up sheet outside. One more note. I'm going to join Lynette to man the doors. We need more volunteers in this area. We only have about 6. So I know Steve is not here, but if you are interested, please see me after the service. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Last Sunday.
Come closer.
Last Sunday, when our baskets were passed around, this congregation contributed $1,589 to the UUA disaster relief for all the wildfires. We've had a lot of calls, so if you were not here and you would like to contribute today, I have some envelopes here, and you can put cash in there and designate that it's for the UUA disaster relief, or you can write a check and just put wildfires on the comment line, and we will write a check toward the end of this week for the UUA disaster fund. This congregation is very generous. Thank you so much.
And if you would please take note of the activities that are coming up in the rest of this month. The February theme is inclusion. Pat Wichter, who you just heard perform, will be here in the Music Hall Malthus on Saturday night, and then we'll be speaking here in the congregation on Sunday morning. That's going to be really cool. I will be speaking on the 16th, and Dick Hood will be speaking on the 23rd. We're looking forward to seeing all of the time we can be together and encouraging each other. You also see that the UUCL Got Talent Night is scheduled for April 5th. And I think that's all the announcements I have. What have I forgotten? This is your time to get even. Oh yes, Beth, if you would please.
Just a quick reminder that this Wednesday is our movie night for the month. And so please, if you will, sign up in the lobby. You view the film before you come, then you bring your delicious dish with you, and we share it, and then we have a marvelous time talking about the film. The film this time is 6888, and it streams for free on Netflix, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So please join us. It's a great evening together. Thank you.
And just a word of thankfulness and thoughts for the soundboard back there. It's brand new, and it has taken us from analog to really digital, and so Randy's back there guessing. And we're with you, brother. We're with you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to invite my friend, Reverend Dr. Neal Jones, to bring the message, but first the opening words. And so, Dr. Jones, if you would, please.
Good morning. Good morning. It is good to be back home. Our opening words are from Abraham Maslow. At any given moment, we have two options: to step forward in growth or step back into safety. Our opening hymn is a familiar one to those of us who grew up in the church. It's a very traditional hymn. Number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Let us stand together as we sing.
Thank you to those of you who have placed your donations on the back table. They are needed and welcomed by the Sandalwood Food Pantry and Bluffton Self-Help. And now we will accept your offerings for this beloved community and the work it does beyond these walls. If you are a visitor, please just let the basket pass. Your presence is our gift. your generosity.
Now is that special time when those who are so moved come forward to share your joy and or your concerns. You may take a stone from the basket, come forward, tell us your name and what your joy or concern may be, and then place the stone in the cairn. I have an admission to make that's both a joy and a concern, and that was when I first came to the UU Church, I had no idea what a cairn was. So, suspecting that there may be a few others in the same situation, I would share what I found out and probably should have known given my background. Cairn is a Scottish term, and it refers to a pile of stones that are put together either as a marker for some property line or as a path through the woods, or sometimes as a burial site. There have been many, many uses for a cairn, but it refers to, as I say, a pile of stones that serve to mark a particular place. The interesting thing is that the Scots also have a saying that goes, "Let me put a stone on your cairn," which means I'd like to acknowledge the good that you've done and blessings upon you. And that seems so appropriate for what we do each Sunday morning. So if you feel free, please come forward and tell us what your joy or concern may be.
Good morning, I'm Mike, and I have a huge joy. Last night we saw the Sun City Harmonizers in concert, and just so happens the director of those Harmonizers is with us today. And if he could stand up just for a second, you'll see who he is, and you'll be able to congratulate him yourselves. Brian Frank, thank you very much. Oh yes, you're fabulous. He was in his element, standing up, getting people singing on time, on harmony. It was magical. A stone for the cairn.
You rarely get it right. I have stood here for years. I have stood here for years telling you that if you share your sorrow, you will be comforted. And I know almost every one of you, and I love you because you have wrapped us in comfort. Thank you. And I'm coming to movie night, and I'm coming to music on Malfris, and I'm going to be with you every chance I get.
Not much I could add to that. I just want to say that this is the most caring congregation we've ever been a part of. And that goes from Super Charlie all the way through members. People have been members here for decades to some that we've just recently met. We have a fantastic care committee, and it just extends all the way through this congregation. we're grateful for all of you. So,
I put my, in Karen, not the basket.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tom. I never knew how to pronounce Karen. I laid many stones on trails, but I never knew how to say the word correctly. So, my name is Kathy Zeiser, and I have a joy because this past weekend, last weekend, I attended my granddaughter's bridal shower. So she gets married in March, so that was just a phenomenal thing. So all went well. But I'm really here because I have a sadness, and that is, you all probably heard of the 2 plane crashes this past week. And my heart goes out to all the families. But the second plane crash happened in Philadelphia, which is where I'm from. And it actually hit one of the neighborhoods that I live very close to. And I also worked at Shriners Hospital for crippled children, which is where the medevac was coming from. They had brought a child from Mexico along with her mother, which Shriners did a lot of free of charge, and they do wonderful work. But my heart just goes out to all those who have suffered this past week, their families. It's just tragic. But especially Shriners, I had worked for them for a number of years, and they just do fabulous work. So keep them all in your thoughts, especially the families. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marcella. Many of you always ask me when I will be performing, so I just want to share that message. I will be in Sun City at a venue called Irish Coffee on Tuesday. It's in the Edisto Room from 5 to 7 p.m. So if anybody's interested, definitely Sun City folks, but if you do not live in Sun City and you need a pass to get in, just let me know. We'll also have Joanne. She's going to come up and do a Simon and Garfunkel piece with me. So, yeah, Joanne will be there. I wanted to thank Charlie for that introduction message about Black Lives Matter. It's good to know that there is a place that's still, interested in diversity and celebrating diversity. And this is Black History Month. So thank you very much. I come up here and I say I have an opportunity to look at safe faces. You don't know nowadays, what's safe and what's not safe. So I believe there's safe faces in here, so thank you very much.
I'm Peter. I recently read an article, I think it was in the New York Times, and it was a pretty sad article by a woman who had lost her young daughter to cancer. But what came out of it for me was this one little metaphor that she included, which was that she was able to take joy in little teaspoons full. And so just like as you go through the day and you see the beautiful sun on a tree, or something nice happens, or just any kind of little thing, you can just take this little teaspoon of joy and savor it. And it's already helped me a lot through a lot of things, so I loved that.
Thank you, Tom, for explaining the cairn. Every week, somebody takes a stone out of the cairn and puts it in the basket. Yeah. It's the opposite way. I just want to point that out. And I thought after the story that now you know. Anyway, my name is Rosemary, and I had a wonderful conversation with a software engineer this week. My hard drive on my computer went out. So I went to Carolina IT over in Sea Pine, or in the South End. And The guy who I've worked with before looks, well, you know, the default is Mexican, right? I mean, if you're not, you know, white, there is, well, he's from Mexico. And we got to talk, it turns out he is from Puerto Rico and Italy. I mean, he's half Puerto Rican, half Italy. We had the most wonderful conversation about the immigration issue and things, and he was, you know, he was saying that here in the South, they moved from New York just about 4 years ago during COVID, and he was saying everybody in the South just thinks you're darker skin, you're Mexican, you know, but most are from elsewhere, and from South America and from Central America. And we were just having such a good conversation. He gave me a tip. He said, if you're talking with people, which is what I'm trying to do more, don't ask them or talk with them about the ICE situation or, you know, the immigration laws, because then they may think that you are going to, you know, squeal on them or you're working for ICE. So that's just a little tip, because to me, that was kind of the question, you know, what can we do? You said don't, but just be friends, and just, it was just really neat. And my computer is running like, I'm so happy now. I was about to throw it out the window. Thanks.
Well, I'll take a stone from the basket on behalf of all those who maintain their joy or their concern in their own hearts, and also for the children who have been killed through gun violence and their families. They remain a real concern for all of us. If you will now join me in responsive reading 529. The same stream of life that runs through my veins night and day runs through the world and dances in the million hands. It is the same life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth and numbers the blades of grass and breaks in the tumultuous waves of leaves and flowers. It is the same life that is rocked in the ocean cradle where birth and death, in ebb and flow. I feel my limbs are made glorious by the touch of the world of life. And every cry is on my life, of ages dancing in my blood this moment.
And again, it's my privilege to invite Dr. Jones to bring a message of how we might choose our problems. Sometimes they just gang up on us, but apparently we have a choice. Dr. Jones.
And I have to say, amen to the joy that was shared, that this is the friendliest congregation I've ever been a part of. I've served quite a few through the years of various denominations. I have a meandering journey. But this is the friendliest, which is the reason I enjoy coming back here every month. Once upon a time, long ago in the Himalayan foothills, a king had a son whom he was determined to spare from any experience of suffering. The king built high walls around the palace to prevent the prince from knowing the suffering of the rest of the world. Inside the palace walls, servants catered to the child's every wish and whim, lavishing him with food and gifts. But after several years of being spoiled, the boy grew bored and restless. No matter how much he was given, It never seemed enough. Everything and every experience seemed empty. So, late one night, the prince snuck out of the palace to see what lay beyond the walls. He had a servant drive him through the local village, and what he saw horrified him. For the first time in his life, he saw sick people, homeless people, people in pain, and people dying. For the first time, he saw suffering, and it changed the way he saw life, including his own life. All of his riches now seemed meaningless, and the prince concluded that his lifestyle of the rich and famous was making him miserable. So he ran away, not only from the palace itself, but from his privileged royal life. He gave up his family, his status, his possessions, and lived in the streets. He begged for scraps of food and lived with hunger, loneliness, and pain. He fully embraced a life of suffering. Eventually, he came to realize what many of us have long known, that suffering sucks. He discovered that suffering without a purpose is as meaningless as living the high life without a purpose. So having experienced the extremes of life, the prince cleaned himself up and went and found a big tree near a river. He decided he would sit underneath that tree until he could make some sense of life. And as legend has it, he meditated under that tree for 49 days, at the end of which he came to this conclusion, that life is full of suffering. Whether you are rich or poor, popular or detested, attractive or ugly, American or Korean, a fan of the Phillies or the Nationals, pain and loss are inevitable in life. And trying to deny, avoid, or resist them only makes your suffering worse. Now, you may have heard of this prince. He later became known as the Buddha, the enlightened one. Now, the American version of Buddhism is summed up by that Gilda Radner character in the original cast of Saturday Night Live. Remember her? It's always something. Life is one problem after another. The rich have problems with their money. The poor have problems with their poverty. People with families have family problems. People without families have individual problems. People with dogs have dog problems. People with cats have cat problems. People with cars have car problems. People without cars have foot problems. Now, this is not to say that all problems are equal, but the fact remains that life is full of problems. The Buddha and Rosanna are basically making a philosophical observation about life. But there's an evolutionary observation to be made as well about why life is full of suffering. As a species, we human beings have evolved the capacity to feel continual dissatisfaction and insecurity, because dissatisfaction and insecurity motivate us to work, explore, innovate, push the limits, put ourselves out there, take some action that will enhance our survival. We are hardwired to become dissatisfied with whatever we have and to seek satisfaction in what we do not have. This is why the prince's boredom and restlessness, not despite his riches and privileges, but because of them, ring true. Because of his boredom and restlessness, he went beyond the walls of his comfort, literally and spiritually. This innate dissatisfaction has kept our species striving and struggling, conquering and building. It's enabled us to survive. Now, seen in this light, pain takes on new meaning. Now, we typically view pain as being bad, as something to avoid at all costs. In fact, for many of us, the perfect life would be perfectly free of pain and problems. But pain is our teacher, and problems are our motivator. Our nervous system evolved the capacity to register pain for our own survival. When we stub our toe on that coffee table, we're more likely to walk around it with a wider berth. When we touch that hot stove, we're more likely to use a microwave next time. And pain is not merely physical. We also evolved the capacity to feel psychological pain, which also enhances our survival. In fact, and I find this interesting, research has found that our brains register psychological pain the same as physical pain. In MRI scans, the same areas of the brain that are activated for both physical and psychological pain. In fact, I suspect that the word brokenhearted entered our vocabulary because the experience of loss can sometimes feel like your heart is literally breaking. So, feeling the emotions of sadness, loneliness, guilt, shame, anger, and so forth is like stubbing our toe or touching a hot stove. These emotions teach us to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. Now, of course, it's not fun experiencing pain, whether it's physical or psychological, which is why many of us, probably all of us, avoid pain in at least one of four ways. One way is through denial. Some of us sometimes deny our problems by minimizing them or just plain pretending they don't exist. It's a convenient way of ignoring reality. And it may make us feel good for a little while and even work in the short run, but reality will catch up with us eventually. The second way we avoid pain is through distraction. Some of us sometimes distract ourselves from our problems by pointing our attention to something else which has nothing to do with our problems. And the better our distraction feels, the easier it is to become distracted. And distractions can be anything as simple as spending way too much time on Facebook or something as complicated as having a baby to save a marriage. If our distractions do a really good job of numbing our pain and making us forget our problems, they may become addictions. Substances or activities which reliably help us to avoid reality. Anything can become addictive, even normally healthy things like exercise or meditation. The problem with the distractions, while okay in small doses, is that the longer we avoid our problems and numb our pain, the more painful it will be when we finally do confront our issues. A third way we avoid pain is through blame. Some of us sometimes blame others or our circumstances for our problems. And whether the blame is justified or not, blame makes us feel good because it shifts our focus from our responsibility for dealing with our problems to who or what is at fault. Now, unless you're in a court of law, making such judgments is helpful only to the extent that they lead us to take some action to solve our problems. At the end of the day, we are left with the responsibility of addressing our problems, however they were created and whoever created them. And a fourth way we avoid pain is through victimhood. Playing the victim takes blaming others to a whole new level. Now, some of us sometimes play the role of victim because, like blame in all its forms, it absolves us from taking responsibility for solving our problems. Many people who regularly play this role do so because they were victimized earlier in life. And so it's a role that feels familiar and comfortable. It's a role with a narrow field of vision. Perpetual victims always see others as powerful and in control and see themselves as helpless. Unfortunately, their sense of helplessness holds them back from taking necessary action to solve their problems. Playing the victim is unfortunately self-reinforcing because, let's face it, it feels good. It feels good to be full of righteous indignation. We're seeing a lot of that these days. Righteous indignation over the way one has been mistreated, whether the mistreatment is real or imagined. Again, righteous indignation is useful only to the extent that it may lead us to take action to solve our problems. So, life is full of problems, which we shouldn't avoid because they have the potential to teach us. Now, we may not like the pain, which often comes with problems, but you don't have to like something in order to face it and deal with it. The Buddha taught us, and our experience confirms, that resisting the inevitable suffering of life only creates more suffering. Dodging our problems only works in the short run. Reality always has the last word. Always. Besides, if you spend your days avoiding what is painful and uncomfortable, you will also spend your life avoiding your life. But you and I don't want to hear that. In fact, we don't believe it. We optimistic Americans, who compared to the rest of the world, live within our walls of our privileged palace, we believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. And to be happy means you achieve a pain-free and problem-free life. We believe that happiness is something that can be worked for and earned and achieved. Once I graduate with that degree, then I'll be happy. Once I meet the right person, then I'll live happily ever after. Once I get that job or that promotion, then I'll be set for life. Once I buy that house in that neighborhood, then I'll be somebody. Once I make X amount of dollars, then I will have arrived. Once I get my weight down to X pounds, then I will feel good about myself. Some have called this American pursuit of happiness the hedonic treadmill. I love that phrase, the hedonic treadmill. From the word hedonism, we are constantly working hard, pursuing the next thing that promises to make us happy. But once we get it, sooner or later, we find ourselves dissatisfied again. And so over the palace walls we go, chasing that next high, the never-ending hedonic treadmill. We treat happiness as if it were something to be discovered, owned, attained, or achieved once and for all. But happiness is a process. It involves struggle. It involves facing and solving our problems. Think about it. This is what we mean when we say that we're in the flow. In the flow means to be fully immersed, fully engaged, fully absorbed in an activity. And your engagement energizes you. It makes you feel alive. It makes you happy. So happy that you lose track of time. And you cease being worried about the opinions of others or your own self-judgments. And that activity is typically the facing of a challenge or solving a problem. Think about those moments in your life. When I look back on my life, One of the happiest times of my life was a time when my life was full of challenges and problems. I had decided to leave my profession as a minister and go back to graduate school to become a psychologist. I was going to classes each week, reading, studying, doing research, writing papers, being tested in an area of study that was new to me. At the same time, I was working 20 hours a week in a clinical setting, providing services and being evaluated continually on my performance. At the same time, I was working as the part-time minister of a congregation I had discovered in this religion I had not heard of before. It sounded like a cult. Unitarian Universalism. At the same time, my wife and I had bought our first house, which I was trying to maintain while also maintaining our relationship and trying to maintain our finances as my student loan debt grew larger and larger. Now, I look back on that time of my life now, and I don't know how I did it. I was so busy. I was so tired. I was dealing with one problem after another. And I was fully immersed, fully engaged, fully absorbed in the moment. I was in the flow. Yes, I was stressed and stretched, but I was also happy. True happiness comes from struggle. It grows from facing and solving problems. Now, we want the result without the process, the reward without the struggle, the victory without the fight. We think we can have the view from the summit without having to climb the mountain. But happiness comes from climbing the mountain. People who enjoy good health and a healthy physique will willingly choose to work out, calculate calories, and eat the right kinds of food in the right amounts. People who enjoy their careers willingly choose to put in the long hours at work and navigate office politics. People who enjoy their relationships willingly choose to engage in the tough, honest conversations, sacrifice their self-centeredness, and commit themselves to the well-being of the relationship. People who enjoy their church willingly choose to engage in the tough, honest conversations, sacrifice their self-centeredness, and commit themselves to the well-being of the community. The more meaningful question is not what will make me happy, but what pain am I willing to sustain? What problems am I willing to face and solve? If I can answer those questions, the question of my happiness will answer itself. Those wise teachers, the Buddha and Rosanna Dana, they were right. Problems are going to come, one after another, our entire lives. So the spiritual challenge is to choose our problems as much as we're able, to focus on and to solve. If I want good health, then I have to deal with the problems of making time to go to the gym, working up a sweat, and denying myself certain foods. If I decide that good health is not that important to me, I have another set of problems to face. Looking like a potato. Taking longer to walk up a flight of steps. Visiting my doctor more often. Taking more pills. Dealing with my medical insurance. And the solution to today's problem lays the foundation for tomorrow's problem. You solve the problem of getting your degree. Then you have to solve the problem of finding a job and climbing the ladder of your career. You solve the problem of finding Mr. or Ms. Right. Then you get to solve the problem of building a marriage, getting a divorce and starting over. Problems never stop. They merely get exchanged or upgraded. So, you might as well choose the problems that advance your values. On Pledge Sunday, for instance, we talk about how the way we spend our money reflects our values. Well, the problems you choose to face also reflect what's important to you. We are defined by what we are willing to struggle for. We are defined by what we are willing to struggle for. Now, we like the idea that there's some form of ultimate happiness we can attain. We like the idea that we can alleviate suffering permanently. We like the idea that we can feel fulfilled and satisfied with our lives forever. But we can't. Life doesn't work that way. Instead of engaging in wishful thinking, we would do better to ask ourselves, what am I willing to struggle for? Happiness is not waiting for us on the mountaintop. Happiness is found in the climbing. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Jones. And now, congregation, if you would please take your hymnals into your hands. You turn with me, if you will, to hymn number 131, and if you're willing and able to stand, please do so. And may we sing together, Love Will Guide Us. To Laura and Steve and Peter, thank you for being here today, trusting us with a part of yourself in this place today.
And I hope that you found something that is rich and meaningful and significant and valuable. And you'll probably also find that next Sunday too. Come back and visit with us when you can. I want to draw your attention to something. I meant to do this at the first part of the service. On the back of your bulletin, those of you who are unaware of this, there are links to our congregation, and there's a QR code that you can use if you'd like to. Take this home with you. If you don't know what a QR code is, ask a 12-year-old. And they'll help you with that. I also want you to be aware, those of you who are guests and visitors, that we have these yellow cards that are in the pockets in front of you. If you'd like to hear from us, give us your name and your address. We promise not to make you miserable, but we would like to join you in your walk and in your journey. Always, Dr. Jones, it means the world to us to have you here. Your insights and your guidance and direction do make us whole and complete, and we thank you for the work that you do here. And it's always sweet to have you here in this presence. Is there anything else that we need to say before I invite Dr. Jones back to the pulpit? Thank you. If you would please, Mr. Neal.
Our closing words are from someone you've heard before, Viktor Frankl, who wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom."
Please stand if you're willing and able, and join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are in your order of service. While we extinguish this flame, we still carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Until we're together again. Thank you.
lowcountry.org, and you'll see services, and it's on the same second. Good.
How are you feeling? What's going on with you?
I'm doing okay.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
What time is it?
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, 1, 2, check. Oh, check. Check 1, 2.